What's up, everyone? I hope y'all are doing well. In this episode, we have 5 stories regarding people's encounters with ghosts while out fishing. I figured I might as well put out some horror stories since I haven't done so in a while. That and I actually went fishing for the first time since high school a couple weekends ago. It was an overnight camping trip to Lake Texoma with my brother and his family. Those from Texas and Oklahoma know it well since it is in between both states, hence the name Texoma. So what you're seeing on the screen were my catches after not being able to land anything throughout the day with lures. After nightfall, we switched to using live bait instead. My brother caught about 20 shad with his net earlier that day. After the switch, I was able to catch 2 stripers and a catfish, and my brother caught a striper. They were all between 18 to 22 inches. We were going to release the fish back into the water, but our neighbor, the guy camping and fishing next to us, was more than eager to take them. He and his family had been there the night before, but only caught 1 fish. The guy was teaching his son, who looked about 7, how to fish, so he was letting his son work the reel. If I recall correctly, they caught 1 and lost 1. Not sure if they caught any more afterward, but we went to sleep and they were still fishing. Since I hardly fished, that was actually my first time catching a striper. Overall, the experience was cool. It's always a good thing when you can spend quality time with family. That day, my brother actually gave my son a fishing rod and tackle box for an early birthday present, motivating me to do more fishing. So much so, I actually bought myself a Cast King Crixus rod and reel combo on Amazon. If you've ever watched Spartacus, Crixus was one of the gladiators. The dude looks like Grunk in a gladiator armor. I know some of y'all don't care, but in case you didn't know, now you know. Not gonna lie, the name was actually part of the reason I went with it, as silly as that sounds. Comment below if you think I should have gone with another rod and reel combo instead. If so, which one? Anyway, without further ado, y'all already know what to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. Now let's get on with the stories. A fellow angler. Excitement coursed through me as I packed my gear for a day of fishing at a secluded pond I've never been to before. I recently acquired a new fishing pole, a sleek graphite rod with high-speed reel, and was eager to test its capabilities. My friend Jake agreed to join me, adding to the anticipation of what promised to be an unforgettable fishing adventure. We arrived at the pond just as the sun began its ascent, the water shimmering with the promise of bountiful catches. I eagerly assembled my new rod, admiring its lightweight design and impressive casting distance. With a flick of my wrist, I sent my line sailing into the depths below, eager to see what treasures lay hidden beneath the surface. As the day wore on, Jake and I fished as we ranted about our jobs, families, and other hobbies, losing ourselves in the rhythm of casting and reeling. We were able to land a few panfishes and a bass, though it was on a smaller size. Not that we planned to keep any of our catches that day. Jake and I were there mainly to hang out and fish. The hours passed in a blur, the tranquility of the pond soothing our souls and calming our minds. As dusk descended upon the pond, casting an ethereal glow over the water, a sudden urge to relieve himself prompted Jake to wander into the nearby bushes. Alone on the shore, I marveled at the beauty of the fading light. The stillness of the pond, broken only by the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. It was then that I noticed him, an old man hunched over and weathered by time, making his way along the shoreline. Surprised by his sudden appearance, I called out a greeting, inviting him to join me in my fishing endeavors. He smiled warmly, his eyes twinkling with amusement as he declined my offer. We exchanged pleasantries, his laughter blending with the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. Despite a lingering sense of unease, his company brought comfort to the tranquil evening. With a farewell and a promise to return another day, the old man bid me adieu. Turning my attention back to my fishing rod, I adjusted my grip and cast the line once more. It was then that Jake emerged from the bushes, breaking the silence of the evening with his footsteps. Curious, he inquired about the conversation he missed, his confusion evident as I recounted my brief encounter with the old man. Yet, as we scanned the shoreline for the mysterious stranger, he'd vanished without a trace, leaving us to ponder the unsettling truth of the encounter in the fading light of the haunted pond. Ghost in the Fog. The lure of a midnight fishing trip was too enticing to resist, especially when my friend Alex suggested it. With our rods and bait in tow, we set out for the pier by a lake many frequented before. Alex and I were eager for a night of adventure under the stars. Little did we know this outing would lead us into the realm of the supernatural. The night was unusually still as we arrived at the pier, the waters shrouded in darkness. Ignoring the eerie atmosphere, we cast our lines into the tranquil lake, the only sound the soft plop of bait hitting the water. We laughed and joked, relishing the solitude of the night. As the hours passed, a dense fog rolled in, blanketing the pier in an otherworldly glow. Alex glanced nervously around, but I brushed off his concerns, attributing the fog to the lake's mysterious charm. Yet, as the fog thickened, a sense of unease settled over us like a heavy cloak. Suddenly, I caught sight of a figure standing at the end of the pier, his form obscured by the mist. My heart skipped a beat as I nudged Alex, pointing towards the mysterious stranger. But as we squinted through the fog, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving us bewildered. Shaken but undeterred, we returned to our fishing, determined to make the most of our night. Yet as the minutes ticked by, a strange sensation washed over us, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Alex grew tense, his gaze darting nervously around the pier. And then it happened. A soft voice drifted through the fog, whispering our names on the breeze. Alex. Jay. Alex froze, his eyes wide with fear as he turned towards me, his voice barely a whisper. Hey, we should head out. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest as I scanned the mist-shrouded pier, but there was no sign of the mysterious voice, no explanation for the chilling whispers that echoed in the night. With a trembling hand, I reeled in my line, my mind racing with fear and uncertainty. Something was not right about this place, something beyond our understanding, and as we hurriedly packed up our gear and fled from the pier, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had stumbled upon a secret far darker than we could have ever imagined. It was only later, as we recounted our encounter with friends, that we learned the truth. The pier we had visited was rumored to be haunted. As time passed, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay hidden beneath the surface of those murky waters. Midnight Flight. The night air was thick with anticipation as we embarked on our overnight fishing trip. Packed with excitement and anticipation, our group of friends set out for a secluded spot by the lake, eager for a night of camaraderie and adventure. As the hours passed, laughter and banter filled the air, punctuated by the occasional splash as we cast our lines into the still waters. But as the moon rose high in the sky, a sense of unease began to creep over us, a feeling that we were not alone in the darkness. It started with a faint giggling, barely audible over the rustling of leaves and gentle lapping of the waves. We exchanged uneasy glances, searching the darkness for any sign of the source, but there was nothing, just the empty expanse of the night. Then came the splash, loud and sudden, echoing through the silence like a gunshot. We jumped to our feet, adrenaline coursing through our veins as we scanned the water's edge for any sign of movement. But once again, there was nothing, just the airy stillness of the night. Terrified, we wasted no time in packing up our gear, our hands shaking as we hurriedly stowed away our fishing rods and tackle. The sense of impending danger hung heavy in the air, driving us to flee from the lake with an urgency born of primal instinct. As we raced back to the car, a feeling of dread washed over us, as if something unseen was hot on our heels. The darkness seemed to press in around us, suffocating and oppressive as we stumbled over roots and rocks in our haste to escape. Finally, we reached our vehicle, our hearts pounding in our chests as my friend fumbled for his remote. But as he struggled to unlock the car door, panic seized us, the fear of what lurked in the shadows driving us to desperation. "Screw the remote! Just use the damn key!" Someone shouted, their voice trembling with fear as they pounded on the window and pulled on the car door handle. With trembling hands, our friend inserted the key into the lock, his fingers slipping on the metal in his haste. Outside, the darkness seemed to loom closer, a malevolent presence lurking just beyond the reach of our headlights. We screamed for our friend to hurry, our voices raw with terror as we begged him to unlock the doors and let us in. Finally, with a click, we swung the doors open and piled into the car in a frenzy of limbs and adrenaline. Our friend started the engine, the roar of the car drowning out the pounding of our hearts as we peeled out of the parking lot, leaving the darkness and the horrors of the night behind us. Echoes of the Lake. As an avid fisherman, I often found comfort in the calmness of the water. So when my friend Ryan invited me to join him for a fishing trip to a lake he frequented, I jumped at the chance. With our kayaks loaded onto Ryan's truck, we set out early one morning, eager for a day of adventure on the water. The drive to the lake was long, but the anticipation of what awaited us kept us entertained. We swapped stories and shared laughs, the hours passing quickly as we journeyed towards our destination. Finally, after an hour and a half on the road, we arrived at the lake, greeted by the soft light of dawn creeping over the horizon. Launching our kayaks into the calm waters, we paddled out in search of the perfect fishing spot. The lake was serene, its surface like glass, reflecting the vibrant hues of the sunrise. As we cast our lines, the thrill of the catch filled the air, our spirits soaring with each tug. As the day wore on and the sun dipped lower in the sky, we found ourselves immersed in the joy of fishing, our excitement mounting with each catch we reeled in. The hours slipped away unnoticed as we basked in the success of our day on the lake. Yet, as twilight descended and the colors of the sunset painted the horizon, a subtle shift in the atmosphere stirred a sense of unease within us. It was as though the peaceful serenity of the lake had been pierced by an unseen presence, leaving us with an unsettling feeling that we were not the only ones out on the water. It started with a faint sound, like distant drums echoing through the trees. We exchanged puzzled glances, the hairs on the back of our necks standing on end. The rhythmic beat grew louder, accompanied by haunting sounds of chanting and wailing, as if a Native American ceremony was taking place in the depths of the forest. The thought of a Hmong funeral suddenly popped in my mind, and I shuddered at it. Spooked, we scanned the shoreline for any sign of activity, but there were no lights or people to be seen. Just the eerie stillness of the woods. With a silent agreement, we decided to call it a night. However, in the nights that followed, I found myself plagued by horrific nightmares. In these dreams, I was back on the lake, but this time being chased by an angry mob of Native Americans. Their war cries echoed through the night as I ran, arrows zinging past me, the hoots and hollers of the group urging them in their pursuit for my blood. Terrified and unable to shake the haunting images from my mind, I couldn't help but wonder if there was a connection between the unsettling sounds we heard and the nightmares tormenting my sleep. A few days later, Ryan shared a chilling revelation with me. Part of the land surrounding the lake had once been a Native American burial ground, a sacred site steeped in history and mystery. As we reflected on our eerie encounter, the realization sent shivers down our spines. The memory of those chilling nights on the lake lingered with me, a reminder of the ancient spirits that may still roam the shores of the haunted waters. I told my parents about it, and they consulted a shaman who said my spirit was still at the lake, and the Native Americans didn't want it there, because they considered it a taint to their land. A spirit calling ritual was performed, and it was only then that the nightmares finally ceased. Our bizarre encounter. So there's this park near where I work that's kinda notorious for all the wrong reasons. It's got this river running through it, and people always talk about drownings, crime, and homeless folks living there. Some even say it's haunted, but honestly, I've never felt anything spooky there. Anyway, one day after work, my buddy from the office, Mark, and I decided to go fishing there. We brought our gear along hoping to catch something, but it turned out to be a bust. As the sun started to set and the park got darker, we figured it was time to pack it in. I mean, we didn't want to stick around and risk getting robbed or attacked by any of the bums who might be hanging around. So there we were, packing up our stuff, when out of nowhere, this skinny young woman showed up. She looked like she'd just crawled out of the river or something. her clothes all wet and clinging to her. Mark and I exchanged a glance, kind of freaked out because we didn't expect to see anyone else there, especially not someone who looked like they might be in distress. We asked if she needed any help, but she didn't say anything. Just stood there staring at us for a moment like she didn't know what to do. Then, without a word, she turned and wandered off into the woods. We were both pretty shaken up by the whole thing, but we figured maybe she was just some homeless person or something and didn't want to be bothered. We didn't think too much of it until a few days later when we were in the break room at work and the news came on. They were reporting that they'd found the body of a woman who'd been missing for weeks. And then they showed her picture on the screen. Mark and I looked at each other in complete shock. It was her, the same woman we'd seen at the park that night. Was she already dead when we saw her? I still can't shake the feeling of unease knowing that we were the last ones to see her alive, and it makes me wonder what really happened to her out there by the river that night.